All right, folks. Let's give some kind of little happy intro. I say that, dude. Okay. This is Frank the Guitar. My name is Evan Strong, the founder of In the Image Clothing Company. This is In the Image Clothing Company podcast, where we have discussions on the gospel of Jesus Christ. I like to do a little intro with Frank the Guitar, but I don't know if there's ever been a time up until now when I've known what I'm going to do for the intro. And I don't know if I haven't tuned Frank today, might be slightly out of tune. So In the Image Clothing Company has three sides to it. What we do is really the basis of In the Image Clothing Company, other than being founded and centered on and around the gospel of Jesus Christ, as it says in our name, In the Image Clothing Company. We're all universally designed. Our living God designed us in his image. And so we have three sides to us. And in addition to the podcast where we have discussions on the truth of all things, the gospel of Jesus Christ, don't believe me, but we just discuss things as they are. But we're sinful by nature. We mess up. I say things that maybe aren't exactly right sometimes, or maybe are pretty far off sometimes as well. But I try to just speak on things as they are. And we also have what I call the main side of In the Image Clothing Company, one of the thirds, where I discuss the anatomy of the human body and what clothing is doing to that. When there's any imbalances within clothing, if it's not centered, if it's got excess material on the front or on the back, if, buttons and zippers and drawstrings, shoelaces, sizings of things, if things are oversized, they'll fall to one side of the body and pull it out of its center. And so we discuss things like that. That's really the foundation of, physically what In the Image Clothing Company is. And then we also have In the Image Clothing Company music as another third of us, where we do similar things, but with music, setups of specifically guitars and then whatever other instruments we do get into, how to keep the body positioned properly and centered while we play instruments, the ones we discuss, while we sing, and I also make music there, and it's really great. I'm saying that, but you don't gotta think so, but I think it's wonderful. I've been a musician most all my life, and I've just loved music in the ways that I approach it. I say it like that because I'm pretty unique in the way that I approach music, and so I make music the way that I do over on In the Image Clothing Company music. Found wherever you find those three sides of the company. It's 2025. Today is the 9th of February, 2025, and so we've got the internet, at least as of this time today. There's the internet today, last time I checked, which was right before I started this episode. So, this is episode 56 of In the Image Clothing Company podcast, and it is titled Do It Anyway. We'll get into why, and we'll get into this discussion of what all that is about and approach it the ways that we do. I like to approach the topics of the podcast from many different sides, coming at it with gospel discussions, coming at it through clothing, coming at it through my own personal experience, and so we'll get into that. First, I'll do a little rundown on where clothing needs to sit on the human body, and a couple things with that. So, In the Image Clothing Company understands where clothing needs to sit. It doesn't matter if you're a man, if you're a woman, if you're on any part of the globe, in any time period, if you're tall or short or skinny or fat. The human body, the way that we approach it here, because that's really the focus when it comes to the physical function of it, it's about the skeletal system. The fat content comes and goes, the muscle mass comes and goes, but we need to have a natural/neutral center line of the body that's naturally there, the spine, the sternum, the nose, Those things need to stay in the center, and the body needs to just stay in its natural position where all the parts of it connect to just operate the way that it's designed to. And actually, episode 55 of In the Image Clothing Company podcast is titled Designed to Work. And I went into quite a bit of that in that episode. So, our pants that we wear need to be all the way up above our hips, slightly higher in the front than in the rear with that waistband to keep those core muscles constantly activated, which is how they would always naturally be. The core is just the muscles at the center of our body. It's just the center of our body structured the way that it's designed to be. The pelvis sitting in its neutral position, the lower part of the spine that then travels up to the upper part of the spine and just all the way down to the feet even. That would just naturally be always turned on, always working as a whole. And so that's how we're going to allow that to happen while wearing pants. Now, the tops that we wear, the seams on top of our shoulders need to be evenly behind these little bones up here on the tops of the shoulders. Those are the other end of the collarbone, and that allows the shoulders to sit in their neutral position evenly, which is behind the body. Those scapulas naturally sit behind the rib cage. The traps connect in the rear of the body. Those upper trapezius muscles connect to the rear of the base of the skull. And that's how we're going to allow that to happen. With button-up shirts, it's different. There's a band of material rather than a singular seam. They will just naturally sit behind your shoulders. But the edge seams of our shoulders need to be right at the very edges. Oversized clothing is just as damaging as any imbalance within stitches in clothing or weights within clothing, because it will sit off to the center of the body and then it's altering the way that it's working. So, in addition to just where clothing needs to sit, In the Image Clothing Company has two prerequisites just to further aid in allowing no restriction, ideally, and as close to that as we can get, within the human body when we do wear clothing. The first one is our shoelacing technique. It's just the technique that In the Image Clothing Company uses. It's the only technique that doesn't alter the shape of the human foot. With that, we tie our shoes evenly over toward the inside on both feet to the center to create an even foundation from there traveling up. And secondly, we remove all tags from clothing. Anywhere, even within the shoes, no matter where they are altering the body. Either the muscles are having a hard time activating against the material, or they're physically causing a gap that's changing the position of the skeletal system. A beautiful example of that is between the rear shoulders, between the shoulder blades on the spine, in the collar of a shirt, for example, or any top that you wear. You notice that gap that the tag causes. It's very uncomfortable because it's really just altering your body's only workings. So let's get into episode 56 of In the Image Clothing Company podcast. Within Strong's Concordance, which is, I don't want to give like a definitive explanation of what it is because I myself am partially ignorant of what it is, and I'll explain why I used that word right there. But Strong's is within Hebrew and Greek and within the way that the Bible specifically is structured and laid out. Numbers are very significant, and again, I don't know all of exactly how that looks or means or whatever. I think within Judaism, there's a lot of understanding of numbers, and people at the time of, well, I mean, there's Jews nowadays as well, but like Jesus Christ himself was a Jew. He practiced Judaism, and the disciples of his were Jewish, and the people who wrote a lot of the books in the Bible, right? I mean, we're descendants of Judaism as disciples of Jesus Christ. That's where the gospel was founded and centered, really, is within Judaism, right? Coming from the law of Moses. And that's about all the explanation of that I'm going to give right now, because I don't want to be saying things that I don't know. It's okay for me to not know things. We don't know stuff, and there's always things we don't know, but I don't want to be giving false information on that. But I will say You can look up Strong's Concordance, and numbers are very significant, especially within Judaism and just within scripture in general, right? There's so many times the number 40 gets mentioned, for example, and the number 12 and the number 3, the number 7. There's certain numbers that you can see correlate with certain things in different stories within scripture. And again, I only understand that to a degree at my current understanding, but that's just how it is. And number 56, the number 56, um, again, I don't want to sound as though I know exactly what I'm saying with this, but it's, ignorance is something that comes with what 56 means. Um, and that's how I've been spoken to through the number 56, through, revelation and the ways that I get spoken to through numbers, because I do. We don't need to be putting importance on only being guided by one thing, like numbers only, or animals only, or music only, or whatever it is, but our God is above everything, and he can speak to us in whatever ways that he could ever decide to do that. And he speaks to us in the ways that we understand things the best personally. So it's fitting to have episode number 56 of In the Image Clothing Company podcast be titled Do It Anyway, for the reasons I'll get into, because a lot of times we don't quite know what we're exactly supposed to be doing, but if we've got a good idea of something that is the right thing to do, then even if we can't in that moment fully discern and decide and understand exactly how to approach what we're supposed to do, there are certain things that we know that we can just do anyway. A few of those things are going to church. If you wake up on a Sunday morning and you have the ability to get to church, even if you go to a different church ward within the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, we call them wards, which is just a congregation, right? There's different boundaries of just geological, the earth, right? Like, you've got like this neighborhood, and there's this church that's next to the neighborhood, so those people would be meeting at that church. And then you go a few miles down the road, and let's say there's another church, and the people in that area would meet in that church. That's what we call wards within the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. That way, we can create like families of people who live in the same area, not necessarily just biological families, but ward families. And we can have the young adults within those wards really get close to each other, and the older married couples that have kids can get close to each other, or anybody at any age. But we can mesh with people that we then spend time around because we live near each other. And that way, we can help each other out in ways that aren't just on Sunday and through what it means to be going to church, but in all ways throughout every day of the week, every week, just being a disciple of Jesus Christ and doing that together. So, I'm not sure why I started discussing wards, actually. Oh, because, yeah, I mean, even if you wake up and you don't wake up quote unquote early enough, right? You sleep a little longer past the time that your normal ward would start their church. If there's another ward that's going to the same building at a different time, you just go to that ward. That's entirely fine for anybody and everybody to do. Just go to church. I mean, just go. Just do it anyway. If you missed your own ward that you're usually going to, right, that your membership records are in or that you're a part of, go to it, go to the next hour, or if there's another hour after that, because that's how it works a lot of times, especially here in Utah. We've got so many members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Utah's like the central place of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And so we've got a lot of churches here, and that's great. And that's one of the reasons why it's so great, because yeah, just go, right? I mean, ideally, yeah, you build a family within a certain ward that you're a part of and that you're going to, but the body of Christ, just disciples of Jesus Christ in general, in all ways that means, even people who aren't members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, but just other Christians, anybody who's trying to get closer to Christ, we're all just a family and one body. That's why we take the sacrament, right? Is because we're one body. We remember the body that our God shed for us. The blood that he shed is the water that we drink. His body is what we remember when we eat bread at the sacrament. It's a ceremonial thing like the Last Supper. That's what Christ did. He laid out that explanation of things before he got hung on the cross, after that last meal that he had with his 12 disciples, which we see throughout all ways of anything that's depicted within Christianity of any kind, or just Jesus Christ's Last Supper. You can see there's paintings of Christ and the disciples sitting around the table that they had their last meal at together before Christ was crucified and fulfilled his plan, his journey, and then got resurrected afterward. Now, that's the big thing, is just do it anyway. If you know there's certain things that are always the right answer, and I'll give you a few of them. Not because me, Evan Strong, is saying something, because there's plenty of times when I want these things to be like my last resort, when they should be the first thing. But that's why, is because we're commanded by our living one and only true God, Jesus Christ, to do these things. So prayer. The times when you don't feel like you want to pray, and maybe, you're trying to figure it out on your own because you're frustrated, you're upset. The last thing you want to do is rely on anything else besides yourself. And so you feel like you don't want to pray to Christ to find the answers in certain moments. I've been there, but that's actually the last thing we should do. Is the first thing that we should just do anyway, which is pray. However I worded that, what I meant to say was the last thing we should do is neglect prayer. The first thing we should always do is pray, especially when we don't want to. That's when we should do it anyway, and do it especially. And going to church, right? I mean, even if you miss your ward's time and you think that maybe you might feel a little bit out of place, you might feel weird, you don't know anybody in the ward that you're going to because you don't even know what ward it is, but there's a church that you've found that's going to meet at the time that you can get there at, just go anyway. Just do it anyway. Just do it anyway. All the things that we know that we're commanded, especially within the restored gospel of Jesus Christ, within the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, just do it anyway. You want to go to the temple, but hey, there's some things that are coming up and maybe you'll get to it later. If you have the ability to do it right now, just do it anyway. And holy settling. I actually just had a beautiful day today at church, and for many reasons. And I got to meet with what we call the stake president, which within the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, we have our wards, and then what's made up of multiple wards is what we call a stake. And over that stake, there's a person who's called of God and placed into the position we call stake president. And he oversees the stake, and then within the stake, there's the wards, as I was saying, and there's a bishop to each one of those wards that oversees those wards. And the church is very structured, and I've mentioned that within very recent episodes of In the Image Clothing Company podcast up until this point. And that's how we have things be run really structured and really well, and have the church be the same across the earth, because it's structured well, and there's ways that things are laid out. And so There's a lot of things we just need to do anyway. Today I didn't actually go to the ward that I'm currently in, that I'm currently going to. Well, I mean, my records actually aren't quite back into the church. That's what my meeting with the stake president was, is to get rebaptized. And that went really well, and I was very grateful to be able to do all that came from today. But a big part of it is I just went to a different ward and I sat within their sacrament meeting. And even though I didn't partake of the sacrament because I'm not a member at this current moment, because I need to be rebaptized into the church, which you can find my journey of what that's been and what that's looked like in past episodes of In the Image Clothing Company podcast. I've discussed that, my own personal journey with voluntarily removing my records for reasons that shouldn't have happened, debatably, but it's only deepened my testimony and my understanding of what the restored church really is. And so it was beautiful to be able to just go in there and sit within a different ward's sacrament meeting, and people are inviting. I mean, it's the place to be. It's the true church, and it's awesome to be able to just do things anyway. Things that maybe aren't structured or laid out or timed the way that we thought they should have been or we wanted them to be, but we should just do them anyway. The things that we know are the right thing to do. And a lot of times we just don't know how something's going to play out, but we know the commandments. We know the things that we've been told to do. We've been told to go to church on Sunday if we can get there. We've been told to be worthy to partake of the sacrament and to renew our covenants with our God. And we just need to do these things anyway, whether we feel right about it in our own being, as far as like there might be some things coming up that we feel like we just don't want to do it. Just do it anyway. And just do it anyway. Whether we understand fully how something's going to play out, if we know what it's supposed to be and the reasons as to why, then we just do it anyway. And the confirmation within us knowing that we did the right thing comes either as we're doing it or after we've done it. But a lot of times we just have to push through that initial not fully understanding why and just do it. Just do it anyway. I'm going to cry / cough at the same time. And that hits me. Somebody who has grown up knowing what I should have been doing and I just wasn't doing it. Procrastination and me getting in my own way and not doing these things that I know that I should do. We need to just do it anyway. We need to just know that, as silly as it is, our God has told us to do things. Because sometimes we think they're silly. Sometimes we think it wouldn't matter if we don't get the sacrament this week, but we have every ability to. When we understand what it is and what it means to partake of the sacrament, we need to just do it anyway, regardless of what we're feeling or thinking or where our current intentions can take us. There's certain things that we need to do if we can, regardless of what the circumstance or situation is or looks like, or if it's different than what it normally is or what we think it should be. We need to just do it anyway. So I want to bear my testimony, man. Bearing your testimony is just like volunteering your testimony, stating what you know to be what is just what it is. Within the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, it's a very common term that gets heard, is bearing our testimony, but as a witness of what we know. Within any kind of legal matter, there's people who bear their testimony of what they saw happen or what they know of the situation to help get down to the truth. Within the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, we bear our testimonies or our witnesses of the restored gospel through the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, of all the people that have brought that to be, of Joseph Smith, of all the prophets that have gone before him and after him, of Jesus Christ himself being our living God, and all the things that come with being a disciple of Jesus Christ and a member of his true church, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And I just really want to testify that there's been plenty of times in my life where I've known that I just need to do things anyway and I didn't do them. And that's only me causing myself to miss out on peace and on contentment and on joy and understandings and furthering my connection with my living God, our living God, whether you are a member of the Church of Jesus Christ or not, whether you have been in the past and removed your records voluntarily, or if they've been removed for any certain reason. If there's anything you can do or that you know you should do that you're just not doing, you need to be doing it, regardless of what you think about it currently. If you know that it's the right thing to do, you need to do it anyway. Don't let me, Evan Strong, tell you something, but there's been plenty of times when people were telling me that, and I wasn't listening. And it would have only benefited me to do these things anyway. So I'm going to actually wrap up this episode of the podcast just like that. I don't know how long it's been, but if it's been 10 minutes, 20 minutes, usually these podcast episodes are closer to an hour long. Not that there's any obligation for them to be any certain length, but I feel very good about where this is sitting currently. So my name is Evan Strong, the founder of In the Image Clothing Company. Check out the other two sides of the company if you'd like to. They will benefit you in the ways that they do, guaranteed, because we just speak truth. We speak things as they are here. And we are a clothing company, after all. It's within our name. We will have clothing available that does what we say it will do. Stay centered, fit correct, and allow the body to work. Do all you can to purchase it in your size. Make sure you're doing everything you can to not wear oversized clothing in every way that it comes to wearing clothing, because that's going to be causing stress and strain on your body and damaging it. So yes, if you'd like to purchase In the Image Clothing Company clothing when it comes time for it to be available, that's something you can do. You have no obligation to, but we will do everything we can to make it good, because that's the whole goal of our company, is allowing, keyword, the body to work. So thank you. Today is the 9th of February, 2025, and yeah, I have a very, very strong rooted testimony now, more than it ever could have been in the past, of the fullness of the gospel of Jesus Christ restored through Joseph Smith and everybody who went into translating the records and restoring the keys of the priesthood of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And so I'm going to continue to do all that I can, as I've been doing up until this point, to spread the gospel and to bring people to Christ and to change my ways, even when I was doing the right thing by spreading the gospel, but not spreading it quite in the fullness of what it is. That's okay. We're all imperfect people trying to spread some perfect good news. And so we're never going to do it correct 100%. But we can all do every bit of what we can within what we know in our current state. So, yeah, just so much gratitude. So thank you. There's a lot of ignorance that we do have, a lot of stuff that we just will never know. And a lot of times I was just not doing things that I didn't know that I knew, if you will. So I'm trying to just better myself and own up to everything that I am doing wrong, and I will always continue to do things wrong. So a lot of gratitude for this beautiful podcast too, for myself, just what it's doing for me, and the ability for me to preach the gospel in my imperfect ways of doing that and help people across the entirety of our earth. So thank you. This is episode 56 of In the Image Clothing Company podcast. We're never going to know exactly what we're supposed to do all the time. But if there's things that we know that we should be doing, that we feel that there's something telling us not to, or we're trying to avoid, or we don't feel worthy of, or whatever it is, we need to do them anyway, because there's always going to be a way made for us to do the things that we need to if we're trying our best to look to Jesus Christ and follow him. And that phrase in itself, just those two words, is so powerful and so beautiful, just to follow him. Because that's all that it really boils down to, because we don't really know how that's supposed to be. Even when we do have the beautiful organization of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints laid out of how things should be structured and what the covenant path looks like, and we don't always know exactly how it's supposed to be, but we just know the one who does, and so we just need to follow him in everything, whatever that means. So I'm going to continue to. So, as far off as we get with things, when and if we do, within In the Image Clothing Company, we are centered around the gospel of Jesus Christ, and that's what it will always be, is following Jesus Christ through everything. So, thank you.